the premise of this bill, to me, is that Congress should blindly follow agency recommendations made decades ago, near history. I find that full of problems and problematic to begin with. But during these times periods where the wilderness suitability determination was made, and are they still relevant today, Mr. Babbitt? Haven't public values and our knowledge of the lands themselves changed considerably, and these recommendations since then could be dated and when they were established. So if that's the premise, and we're looking now from a historical perspective and Congress's role in the determination, don't you feel that the information's changed in 2 decades, a decade?
Mr. Grijalva, I think it's fair to say that when a wilderness study area went into effect, that the decisions that were made about designation versus release would always have a shifting character as a function of the composition of the Congress, the desires of the local people, technological advances in the kinds of uses and impacts on the area, and that each Congress going forward would undoubtedly be looking at these issues in a shifting matrix of facts and events and the opinions of the elected officials. That's as true today as it was 30 years ago. But it doesn't, for me, alter the architecture of the act, which says it's for Congress to make the decision. What Bob Abbey may have recommended 30 years ago, or 10 years ago, or yesterday, is nothing more or less than advice for this Congress to take into consideration when it meets its statutory function of making the decision.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I think the point is that we could resolve all these issues, Mr. Chairman, if members of Congress would do their homework. You get the stakeholders in the room, you get out the maps, a Sharpie, and you go to work with the people that have an investment in a potential designation. And it's really hard work, having learned that painfully with the Tumacacori Highlands as we went through that process. And you start with the old agency recommendations, then the compromising process begins, then you have an understanding, and you craft legislation, you bring it to your colleagues, and you try to pass it. And I think across the board, releases or designations is not the process, and it's not the path to lasting success in these issues. With that, let me yield back and thank you for your courtesy.